Hey guys, welcome back to the Real Estate Monopoly. My name is Kerwin, and this is Jeffrey. We are the Donis brothers, and today we are here with Courtney Moeller. Courtney, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so honored to be here. You guys are so incredible, and I'm thrilled to sit here and chat with you guys.
Thank you so much. So, first question. I know you come from a background in the Navy. What is one lesson that you've taken from the Navy to really succeed as an investor?
Oh, that's a really great question. I was pretty young. Actually, I was a single mom when I joined the Navy, and I always thought of that as a man's job. And so when my parents suggested that I join, actually it was the Air Force, I thought, what? That's why would you even suggest that? And then I kind of started digging into it and ended up joining the Navy. They offered me a nuclear position. You take a test called an ASVAB that, lets your aptitude or whatever, and what they want you to do. And the nuclear program wasn't where I wanted to go, and avionics is where I ended up. And avionics is a very male dominated field, and it was always either me in a shop of 70, 80 men, or there might be one other female, but it was usually just me. And so I was really good. I was really good at it. I really enjoyed my job, and I ended up running the last shop that I was in on the Nimitz. And I think one of the things, as the person that was in charge of that shop and in charge of all of the critical pieces of gear that were keeping our F-18s flying, was to lead by example. I never sat around and told people what they had to do. I was always willing to get in and do everything I expected them to do. And my guys that were in there busting their butts to work so hard and get stuff done, I was in there right alongside of them in the shop, working and trying to make things happen too. So I think it's just really important to treat everybody equally. It doesn't matter if you are the janitor. It doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States. People are incredible, and you've got to treat everybody the right way.
Absolutely, I completely agree. That's something that we've learned too. Like when you're at networking events, no one person is more important
Yeah.
than another. And typically the people that are the most successful are the most humble, and
Mhm.
they can be a little
I guess
unassuming. You won't
unassuming,
know.
you
You won't expect it from them,
Yes,
and that's
yes,
something that's taken us. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And I really just come from a place that, you really have to build each other up and help each other out and help each other succeed, help each other be successful.
yeah,
God just wants us to love everybody and make everything great and spread that and share that. So there's enough in the world for everybody to be successful and everybody to be happy. So
that's awesome. And so I do know that you mentioned that you were a single mom before with like no money. Before I believe you got into the Navy, but then afterward you saved up your money and you were able to start investing. What was like the flip for you? Because I know like a lot of people in that position wouldn't think, oh, I'm gonna go start investing money. In fact, they're like just trying to live paycheck to paycheck. So what was that transition?
Oh, that's a really, really great question. When I first joined the Navy, I was a single mom, and a lot of people don't know this. My very first husband that I was married to was very abusive, and there was a lot of things that we went through. Money was withheld from me. A lot of things that I swore, I would never go through again. And so, going into the Navy, I started off as an E1, moved up very quickly. But even in that younger time in the Navy, as a single mom, it was tough. I mean, there were literally times where we were eating the 39-cent cheeseburgers from Burger King because that was all we could afford at that time. So it was a struggle. And I spent almost a year, almost all of 2003 in the Persian Gulf. And during that time, because we were at war, I was in a tax-free zone because of what we were doing at the time. So we got hazardous duty pay, it was tax-free, all of these things. So when I came home after that year, I had a pretty substantial amount of money saved up. And I always knew that first of all, I was never going to get into that situation again. But I thought, okay, what can I do to better myself, to better my life for my kids? And, I got my real estate license and sold real estate. And a friend of mine actually had me doing all of her marketing, which was amazing. I just had a baby. Joe and I had just gotten married, my amazing husband, and she was letting me bring him to work with me, which was
Oh,
awesome. So I wasn't sure exactly what that investment stuff was going to look like. I wasn't even sure what to do. We're not given a financial education. We're not taught how to invest. And even, my dad was a petroleum engineer. And, I think we put these, doctors and attorneys and engineers on this different level, but at the same time, they're not given a financial education either. And so, he had a lot of oil and gas, stocks and 401ks and a lot of the traditional things that people invest in. So my path to investment was a long path. It was a long path of learning and really just getting educated. And that took me going down a lot of different paths to figure that out. And so when my dad passed away, I inherited his oil company. And when oil is over $100 a barrel, that's great. It's 80, 90, $100 a barrel. When it's $30 or sub-zero and all of your income depends on what oil is doing, that's really, really tough. And so that's what kind of led me to diversify and really start investing in other things and figuring out how I was going to diversify my portfolio and really make a difference to make sure that my family and my children didn't end up in this position, again, to where, we were dependent upon one sole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like we can relate to a lot of there's a lot of parallels between your story and ours.
Yeah.
Of course, it's different, but for us, when we didn't grow up with that financial education, I think that's the case for a lot of people, especially if you come from you don't come from wealth. So for us, Jeff, you can probably build off of it. We were just, the first thing we did was we read Rich Dad Poor Dad. We started reading a lot of his books, and then on top of that, we were listening to podcasts, watching different YouTube videos. And then the most important thing was taking action. So we started our own wholesaling operation and all of that. You might have touched on it, but once you were with oil and gas, I assume, sounds like you inherited the company, which you're now running the company, or is that employees with it?
Yes, so we do. And the way that works is, my dad back in the 70s, he was an amazing petroleum engineer, and he would go out, some of his really good friends were geologists, and, they had a team built, and they would go out and find oil and then go to, Chevron and Exxon and say, hey, there's oil over here, I'm going to give you all the information on it. I want a percentage of it. And so that's what he did. And they established this big, relationship with these big, oil companies that extended on. And then, because I'm his daughter, I kind of got grandfathered into that. So we've got, 60, 70, oil and gas interests and wells, and thousands of acres all throughout Texas, which is amazing. And so there was a little bit of a learning curve in there. And, kind of, it's funny because when I met Robert and Kara, I was on this path of trying to figure out, diversification. And, I'd known Kara for a long time, and I had no idea what Robert Helms did or anything. I had no idea, which is hilarious. And so when I finally decided, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. I've got to figure this out. And so I really started studying, different asset classes and diversifying into different assets. And, my dad always told me, you don't ever sell oil interests. And, through the years, as the prices change, I kept getting better offers for certain wells and better offers. And I finally thought, you know what, I'm just going to sell one of these. They made me, an offer I couldn't refuse. And I just thought, this is one. We still have so much that this is a great way for me to take that money and, move it into some other assets. Yeah. And that's what I started doing. And it was going so well. And gosh, it is the most rewarding thing in the world when you are sitting there studying stuff and you're researching and you're making different investments and they're going well. And that's a really great feeling. I've never depended on a financial advisor. I had somebody that was my dad's financial advisor, but I didn't agree with what he did. And every time I wanted to do something, I had to call and ask him permission. Hey, I want to move money here. And he would always start grilling me and asking me questions. And I thought, yeah, I'm done with you. You're this is my money. I'm telling you, this is where I want to move it. I shouldn't have to answer to you. And so I squashed that pretty quickly. And, that's when Kara, we just happened to start chatting about crypto. And she was like, you need to come to the summit and talk. And I was like, okay, that sounds amazing. And then I looked up their summit and I was like, oh my gosh, this is
legit
crazy. I was like, okay, I'm totally flattered and honored that you think I can come stand on a stage with Robert Kiyosaki and Peter Schiff and all these people. I was like, but I can't do that. That's crazy. And, she goes, you just need to come talk to Robert. So I sat down and talked to Robert, and he was like, look, And he made me feel so great about everything. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And
Yeah.
things have just changed. I came out of that summit where I met you guys,
Yeah.
and, I had shiny object syndrome. I learned about, storage and private notes and apartments and syndication and all of these amazing ways that you can earn money and get your money to work for you. So you're not having to work the rest of your life. And just all of these opportunities that I had no idea even existed. And I have just taken that and run with it. And, I had to kind of sit down and hone in and figure out, what is my specialty? Where am I going to go with this? And I just feel like I'm so thankful for all of the people that I've met and all of the opportunities that have come my way. And it's really incredible what happens when you
Yeah.
step
Yeah.
out there and surround yourself with amazing people that are doing amazing things, and you strategize and you pick up on that. And, we're
Nice.
part of such a great group of people that really want to help build each other up and help them succeed. And it's been a heck of a few years.
That's
So
awesome.
it's exciting.
No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And there's so much, so many like gold nuggets I want to dive into there. Starting out, you mentioned something that you've never really had to rely on a financial advisor. And I think that's so powerful because a lot of people do. And I think that's because they lack that financial education that you were talking about. So if you could like just briefly maybe explain what aspects of the financial education are people lacking and like that maybe we're not learning in schools, that kind of leaves them sort of like powerless and unable to really
Sure.
deal with their own finances.
Sure. Well, I think first of all, we're not taught, to work on our financial statements. I mean, our income and expenses and where we're holding. And I can tell you that that's something that I am guilty of even still today, which um, is probably not the best thing. I mean, I have a pretty good idea of, what's coming in and going out, but
Yeah.
I've never been a checkbook balancer. But, we're not taught how to write checks and balance
Yeah.
our checkbooks and balance our accounts, and take a look at what's coming in, what's going out, and making sure that those are balancing in the right way. And to put money, invest in yourself, put that money away before you're doing anything else. So I think there's just a lot of things. And I think even as, time has gone on, everybody is so wanting to live in a way that is,
Keeping up with the Joneses.
keeping up with the Joneses. Yes, I was trying to say that in a nice way, but everybody there's so much competition, and that's the wrong reason to be out doing things. And so when I figured out, and I think as far as the financial education, we're not taught that, hey, there's investments you can make that are going to
Yeah.
help you pay less taxes. There's investments that you can make that, you're not going to be subject to the volatility of the stock market or what's happening. Some crazy headline comes out and, these markets drop, or, you're not subject to that. People right now that, we're about to retire and we just had a 30% drop in the stock market, and their 401ks are now going to have to work for 5 or 10 more years or whatever that looks like. And that's awful. So, finding out that you can take that same money, put it somewhere else, and have a passive income from that and tax benefits is just, I didn't have any idea about that until a few years ago. So there's better ways to do things. And not only that, but a lot of people, and I made some of these same mistakes when my dad died and I inherited all this money. I'm out buying stuff. I'm like, oh, let's go buy this and let's do that. And that's so stupid. And that took me a little while to go, okay, I need to make better decisions. And a lot of people make those mistakes. So what I figured out, one of my goals, I'm actually looking, I've got my little goal board on the wall in front of me, and it has, things that I want to accomplish and, things that I wanted to do for the year. And there's a sports car on there, and I keep kind of moving my goalpost back, but I mean, I could go out and buy the sports car, but really the smart thing to do is to take that money for that car, invest it into something else. I actually invested in carbon capture last year, and that same investment that would have bought me that car gave me amazing tax benefits, and it's going to produce enough income to where I could buy 3 of those cars. And so I think it's really about figuring out these tips and these ways that people that are able to hang on to their money, tapping into that and implementing that and taking action.
No,
So
that's awesome. And I do want to dive into like the diversification side of things because it sounds like you're investing in multiple different things. But first, you touched on the oil and gas. I want to kind of compare that to real estate because I'm sure there's a lot of benefits and maybe like downsides of it when you compare it to real estate. But I'm not really personally just that educated on it. Can
Yeah.
you maybe, yeah,
And I've heard like from a lot of different people, and we go to a lot of the same events, that oil and gas is a bit more speculative. I guess like obviously
yeah.
with your dad being the one that owned it, I'd love to
but you can
kind of
also
get your
probably make
perspective.
more money
Yeah, yeah,
as a
for
result,
sure.
like make more profit
Oh,
potentially.
the thing about oil and gas, and this is it's such a great investment, and but it's cyclical, just like any other asset. There's highs and lows, it moves around.
Yeah.
Right now, the price of oil is high. We've let me back that up
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
second. So oil and gas, when you're exploring and drilling, the great thing about that is it gives you tax benefits against ordinary income and capital gains, which a lot of assets don't do that. Like if you
Right.
invest in an apartment complex or some other things, a lot of different assets have different benefits for you to take advantage of. Oil and gas, one of those things is that it gives you that depreciation against, W2 and capital gains, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially, I play the stock market some and, some of these other markets, some of the crypto markets. And so it's great to be able to have something that can offset those capital gains that I'm experiencing from playing in those markets. So the problem is, drilling oil is a lot riskier. There's a lot of issues involved in that. I mean, you could actually hit that oil and then have sand come in and cave in, and then you can't even withdraw that, that oil. So there's they can go in and figure stuff out, but there's a lot of other issues that can cause problems. So it's a very risky investment. And if they don't hit oil, your investment is gone. I mean, there's not any way to recoup that or fix it. And so definitely much riskier. So it's really important to make sure you're involved in a good company that's reputable, that's been around, because when the price of oil starts going up, all of these people start coming out of the woodwork that are drilling oil, and they found oil over here. And a lot of people have had their money disappear in that asset class. So it's very important to make sure that you are, going with reputable people that have been around for a long time.
Yeah, just curious.
So
I read like a few articles a day, and I see that or and also Chris Martinson, who we've met before. I'm reading his book Prosper right now. And he talks about how oil is obviously a finite resource, and that's why there's so much push for renewable energy. What are your thoughts on companies like yours, or do you still own that company? Like, do you still own
I do.
some? Okay, cool. Yeah, just I'm sure you have insights on whether or not that's something that we'll see the end sooner rather than later, or like what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, I don't think that we will see the end of oil in our lifetime, and
Yeah,
probably not my kid's lifetime.
yeah,
I mean,
good,
there is
good.
a lot of oil. Yeah, there is a lot of oil in the ground that hasn't been tapped yet. And
Yeah,
so, and a lot of these wells, that my dad drilled back in the 70s, they're still producing today. Like I'm still getting checks from them every single month. They will produce throughout my kids' lives. I mean, these
yeah,
wells produce 50, 60, 80, however many years, which is amazing.
Yeah,
It's the
that's all
gift that
passive
keeps on
income.
giving. Got cash
yeah,
flow. Talk about
I love
passive
that.
income.
Yeah, exactly. And so that does kind of lead me into like the next topic because you've mentioned you're in carbon capture, oil wells, real estate. How are you? And I know we're both fans. I believe you're a fan of George Gammon. We've been to a lot of his events, or events that he's speaking at, and he talks about how he sort of like diversifies his portfolio in percentages. I don't know if you have like a similar approach where you'll divide your portfolio into like this much into real estate or crypto, and so if you could break that down, just like obviously it's not financial advice, but I'm just insight into an
Yeah.
experienced investor.
Well, I can tell you we are still very heavy oil and gas. And so, we took, gosh, I would say maybe, 10% of what we had and used that to diversify into other assets. And at the time when I did that, I went into a lot of the stock market. And, in March of 2020, the stock market crashed during COVID. And so I'm sure, I don't know if y'all remember those dips.
yeah,
They went down really low, and I started studying things, and I thought, I had cashed out some of that oil interest that I had, and it had been sitting there for about 6 months because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. And I wanted to make sure whatever I did was going to be a smart decision. And to have that happen, the timeline of what that looked like is so incredible. I mean, I can't, I feel so fortunate that I had cashed that out. And, 6 months later, everything, crashed and burned. And,
Yeah.
all of these markets, no matter what they are, is that a matter, you've got to wait for the opportunities. And, real estate, oil and gas, it doesn't matter what it is. You always want to go in, when it's struggling, when everybody else is scared, everybody else is getting rid of stuff. That's a great time to move into it. So, I started really in the stock market. It didn't matter what you looked at. I mean, you could buy anything and it was going to go back the other direction because it dipped down and everything rebounded. Some industries took longer, the travel industry took longer to recover, any of like the cruise stocks. But,
Yeah.
I grabbed onto Tesla and, a lot of stuff. So, it really didn't matter what you moved into, but I tried to make sure that I got into, Apple and Tesla and, a lot of the companies that, had been around and, built a name and were reputable and I knew we're going to go somewhere. And then my husband said, "Hey, you should buy some Bitcoin." And I was like, "Oh,
So he was the
okay."
one that Joe's the culprit. He's the one that got you into
It's
it.
Joe. Joe was the culprit. And I thought, okay, I don't really know anything about it, but it had dipped down to $3,800. And I thought, well, if we're going to
Yeah.
grab some, now is a good time to do that. And, it had come down from its all-time high around $20,000. And so I was like, okay, we'll do that. And, so got into that, and that is kind of what led me. I call Bitcoin the gateway crypto because I went in like everybody else, just buying some in hopes that eventually it goes up. But then I really kind of went in and started digging around about blockchain, and that's kind of what led me down a completely different path. So
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I just like if our audience should know what Bitcoin is. I don't know if Corona
Yeah, if you
wants
want to
to
maybe,
define it.
I do want you to actually define it in a sec, but before we kind of, because I want to dive into like a few topics on crypto in general. But first, it seems like you're like kind of diversified within multiple different assets, whereas my brothers and I, we are mainly focused on real estate. And so I've heard kind of like two schools of thought where you should focus on one particular type of asset versus like maybe diversifying. What is your perspective and like advice to people? Do you think that
yeah, and
people
you know what?
should
You
really
asked
focus
me
or?
Yeah, you asked me about my portfolio and I didn't even finish
No
answering
worries.
that
No
because
worries.
my brain goes in a thousand directions all the time. And so we were very oil and gas heavy and now, we have apartments, we have
Yeah.
storage, I've got some private notes, precious metals. I am got completely out of the stock market about 10 months ago and then we still hold some crypto. So a lot of people think diversification, they'll be in the stock market in a lot of different stocks. I'm like, no, you're in the stock market. Like
Right.
that's not diversified. So I think it's really important to be invested in a lot of different assets. Oil and gas is a great place to be. Oil and gas is going to be a great place to be probably for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Obviously real estate is the number one asset to invest in. It's been around for so long. Equity happens. It's just one of those things. I mean, you might have a downturn like we're seeing higher interest rates in the markets right now, but you know what, that is short-lived. The ultimate appreciation in assets will totally outpace the interest, and that can always come back in and be refinanced or anything else. And Jason Hartman, I was at a conference where he was speaking and he said, life's best question is compared to what? And
Right.
I think that's such a relevant, great question because, okay, 7% is high compared to what? Compared to where we were 9 months ago? Sure. But compared to where we were 20 years ago when we had 20% interest rates? No. So it's all relative.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
that's
no,
great.
so I think, we try to, be a little bit diversified in our real estate, a little bit diversified in everything. So we hold across as many asset classes as we can, because right now, while, the stock market's not doing well, crypto is struggling, some of these other things are having a tough time. The oil and gas investments that we have are thriving right now. So, in here not too long ago when oil and gas dipped down and was really kind of struggling, I had, income coming in from real estate and some other investments there. So we were making money hand over fist in real estate. So that's why it's really important to have different streams of income coming in from different assets, so that when one thing is struggling or having a difficult time, you're
Yeah.
not completely dependent on that to live. You've got money coming in from other places.
That's awesome. It's all about that multiple streams of income. It's so important. And one of those for
Yeah.
you is crypto is one of your investments, or I guess well, that kind of leads into my next question. What is crypto in your simple words for somebody that might not be familiar with it? And do you see it as an investment?
Or
I
like, I
do.
guess, what kind of investment?
Yeah, what kind of?
You know what? the one thing that I loved so much about crypto, and about Bitcoin specifically, was the fact that I could go in and have a money or a store of value, that I could hold somewhere else that nobody had any control over. Like, I can put that in a wallet. And I think that there are some bad actors in our government and in our financial systems and everything else. And, I'm always trying to do everything that I can to protect my family and protect our wealth. And, having money in Bitcoin, having Bitcoin stored somewhere in a safe place, I think is just a smart way to, have money somewhere else that nobody can control. Because even though your money is in the bank is ultimately the person that controls, or the entity that controls your funds. Like, they can totally go in and, take away your ability to withdraw your money. You do not maintain control of that. So I just like having money outside of that. Plus, I can hop on a plane and go anywhere in the world. I don't have to convert anything, and I have access to those funds at all times. But the basics of, blockchain, and what that is, banks for the longest time, had this paper ledger of transactions. Courtney sent Donis brothers, $500. It's literally just this, paper record of transactions. And when you have, humans involved in that, there's errors, there's corruption, there's, all kinds of things that happened. We saw a lot of things that went bad in the 2008, financial crisis, where banks were, adding money to people's balance sheets, taking money away from people's balance sheets. And that's a huge problem. And so the great thing about blockchain is it goes in and it takes that paper ledger, gets rid of this paper ledger. It's just it's a digital ledger of transactions that cannot be hacked. It can't be changed. It can't be, it's not prone to human, corruption or anything else like that. So it's literally just this digital ledger of transactions, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm really interested in like different types of asset classes and specifically crypto and what's going on right now. So I don't know if Cohen, it's okay if I take it where we're going.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did want you to kind of maybe address,
Yeah,
because, but I also want like to make sure it's more like timely, like it'll be applicable for any stage, because I'm sure just like any market, it's going to fluctuate. So maybe if you want to provide some context into what's going on right now, but tie that into what your perspective is long term and how you see crypto like more long term.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add. So like with FTX, I was listening to a few podcasts about that and how it recently went down. I would, if I'm sure you do know a lot more about it than we do. If you could kind of enlighten us and our audience on exactly what that was, what happened, and then how that may or may not have changed the perspective of crypto as a stable investment for investors
in long term.
So, unfortunately, because crypto is not regulated by anybody can step in and do whatever they want. They can create an exchange, they can create a coin, they can create a token, so there's a lot of bad actors. They refer to the crypto space as the wild wild west right now. And FTX, just like Celsius and Bald and some of these others got over leveraged and, got way out ahead of boat over their skis. And so I actually lost money in Celsius. So that was my only one place that I've ever had money tied up. But, the one thing that I've taught people from the beginning is, not your keys, not your coins. And so all of these centralized exchanges and centralized places, Celsius, Bald, BlockFi, Nexo, Coinbase, crypto.com, FTX, all of these places are just like your bank. They are the ones that maintain control over your money. So, and FTX, at the end of the day, just the basic, they were stealing people's money and putting it in other places. That's exactly what happened. They took that money, they took people's money, and I think there's a lot of money laundering and everything else that was going on through FTX. And it's so unfortunate that these exchanges can do that. But, and I've heard rumors of, a lot of issues going on with crypto.com right now too. So this is my big note to everybody. If you have anything on Coinbase or any of these other, centralized exchanges that you don't maintain the keys to, you need to get it off of there. And so it hasn't changed my feelings of crypto in the long term. Now, I don't think that there's room for a lot of these crypto coins and tokens and projects. A lot of these projects that are out there that are doing really cool things, they don't need a token or a coin. They use it to really kind of a venture capital way of raising funds for the project. So I always tell everybody to make sure, you research these things, do your own research, figure out who's involved in it. Of course, FTX had really great, amazing people backing it. So, I mean, there were some really big names backing him. So you just have to be really, really careful. And so, right now I'm very, very bullish on Bitcoin still. I manage Bitcoin mining, and at the end of the day, it's a great place to store your money. Right now, while everybody else is scared and, a lot of people have sold, it's a great time to build a position in an asset, no matter what asset it is. So it's a really good time to start, dollar cost averaging your way in. And the conference, I was just at the Texas Blockchain Summit in Austin yesterday and the day before. And it's so amazing to see. We had so many senators that came in, Ted Cruz was there, Pompliano was there. A lot of people know him as Pomp. And so just, as Americans, we just see it as, another investment or a place to store money. But a lot of the, like when I was at Bitcoin Miami, Bitcoin is having such an impact on so many other people outside of just a place to store money or a way to use your money. People that are escaping North Korea into other countries are able to store their money as Bitcoin, memorize their keys, and get to China. And a lot of these women that are escaping that have no access to money or funds or anything are being forced into sex trafficking and other things. And it's so devastating. And one of the women that I was able to listen to here several months ago talked about how Bitcoin is preventing and helping with sex trafficking and just so many other things. And so it was just a really, I guess, eye-opening experience just to hear how it's impacting other people's lives in such a significantly different way than how it's impacting my life or, why I'm buying Bitcoin. It's completely different. So lots of reasons for it. Texas has cities that's mining Bitcoin. I think it's a great way to store value. I think that we're going to see it go up significantly from here. And as we see a lot of these bad actors and problems with our financial system, it's really kind of paving that way of, for decentralized finance and reasons to have your money in other places that people don't have control over, like the banks and FTX and any of these centralized places that maintain that control. So all of these reasons, and we both know, or we all three know, that our dollar is failing, our monetary system is failing. So all of these things that are happening is just really, giving way to the argument of having a place where you can store your money that nobody else has any control over.
Absolutely.
And I just want to touch on, you mentioned it with all the asset classes, really, regardless of where you invest. The point is, how can it help you? It's like a vehicle. What can it help you do? And for us, it's really building a life by design for our investors as well as for ourselves. So
and Bitcoin, it's really like a revolutionary asset. And I've heard it on previous podcasts that you did, that you kind of, it was compared to the dot-com crash, where the Amazons and Apples of the space will be left standing, but it's still going to be something that's going to like change the game for sure. And
Yes.
I heard you mention, and this is exciting, I don't know how much you could talk about it, but you're starting something called Invest on Main, I believe is what the name was. That sounds just super exciting. If you want to maybe just quickly explain what that is and how it's revolutionizing an already like cutting edge industry.
Yeah. So, okay. So, real estate tokenization, tokenization and blockchain are such huge buzzwords right now. And so, Michael Flight and Robert Helms and Russell Gray and I have come together, and, we all see the importance of being able to, have liquidity in certain assets. And not just that, but our goal is to pull as much money off of Wall Street and put it back into Main Street. And, it drives me crazy that the government can dictate where I can and can't invest my money. Like, why can they do that? That's just not even right. And so, my vision is to create the Amazon marketplace of assets. So when you tokenize something, you're creating kind of like shares of a stock. You're creating smaller pieces that people can invest in. And the beautiful thing about tokenizing something is, say you've got an apartment complex that you've already owned for a year. After that year, that can be opened up and it can be tokenized before then. But after that year lockup, now non-accredited investors can trade in and out of those assets as well. So there's a ton of assets out there that can be opened up to. And, after a year, it's kind of proven itself in the market. It's maybe potentially a little bit safer of an investment. And so it really is it's going to really change the game in investments. A lot of people are creating tokenization platforms. I think we're going to be able to come out and make a really big, loud entrance. And I'm really excited about what it means for, syndicators and investors alike.
That's awesome. And I don't know, and this is maybe like just we have a speed round coming up soon. So this is just I'd love to know though. Is it gonna like lower the barrier to entry as well? So they have to invest less and also maybe at any age?
Yeah, so that's one of the best things about that. Now, as far as age goes, the age is not going to change. There's certain rules that the US, everything is still governed by the SEC. So
Mhm.
the age is not going to change. But it does allow you, right now you can't do $100, investments in
Yeah.
apartment complexes that you're raising $5 million for. I mean, you
Yeah.
could, but that would be a nightmare for payouts and everything else. Smart
Mhm.
contracts allows for the ease of, smaller denominations and a lot more investors very, very easily. So
Yeah.
we're actually creating kind of a syndication in a box, and, tokenization as a service platform that's going to kind of encompass everything that syndicators and investors need all in one deal. Because another problem is investors have a hard time finding deals and finding the types of deals they need to help maybe capitalize on, tax issues that they're trying to solve or something else. So we're creating a platform where people will be able to go in and find those kinds of deals as well.
And you really did democratizing the real
Yeah.
estate space and marrying that with crypto. So that's awesome. It
Love
is
that.
time for
Well,
our.
and
Go
it's
ahead. Go
not marrying it with crypto. Hold on, I just
ahead.
have to
Please. Yeah.
make
Go
a
ahead.
make a statement about that really fast. So a
Yeah.
lot of people don't realize that, utilizing blockchain for tokenization, blockchain is the actual technology, and
Right.
it is not subject to the ups and downs and the volatility that crypto has. Crypto is just one teeny tiny thing that blockchain can do.
Mm.
So and they are completely unrelated. So
Like the
tokenization,
technology.
yes, it's just tokenization is just utilizing that technology. So
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Let
no,
him
I'm
know.
really glad you clarified that because
Let him know,
yeah,
Courtney.
let him know. Call me out. Awesome. Well, Courtney, it is time for our speed round. Are you ready?
I think so. All
Yeah.
right,
Cool.
I'm ready.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Number one, what is the biggest failure that you've encountered in your investing career, and what did you take away from that experience?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I have had a couple of investments where I invested in somebody that I thought was I really believed in the opportunity, and I lost my $100,000, and that is always really tough to that's tough to swallow. But it was something that I figured out very quickly, that it's really important to do research on the people that you invest with,
Yeah.
and what they're doing. So you've really got to take the time to make sure you know what you're investing on and be educated in what you're getting involved in.
Awesome.
Awesome. What is one thing that you're doing differently today that you wish you would have known when you first got started investing?
Oh my gosh. You know what? The people you surround yourself with matter. What you're pouring into yourself matters. I've been very, very intentional about how I spend my time and who I spend my time with, and who I'm surrounding myself with, because that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. That's awesome. To kind of flash forward to the present, what where's your business at today or your investment at today, and what are you looking to accomplish moving forward?
Yeah, so gosh, that's a really, really great question. At the beginning of the year, I did, the Helms's goals, deal last year. I'll be going back to that, their goals conference that they do in January. So I set my goals for the year. And one of my goals, I've got income goals, I want to make, $100,000 a month. And, I have certain syndication goals and, all of these different things that I
Yeah.
am in the works of reaching. So I think it's just a matter of sitting down, figuring out what matters to you and what matters for your family, and figuring out those goals, and think big. Don't think small, think big. Because I have figured out that I squash those goals much faster than I think I can. When you surround yourself with the right people, those goals get met very quickly. So yeah, I have syndication goals, and family goals, and all kinds of different goals. And implementing the right people and the right things makes those happen very, very quickly.
That's awesome. What is your favorite book?
Oh my gosh, I have this huge thing behind me, but I'm gonna have to say it is The Gap and the Gain. That is
Yeah, yeah.
probably, have y'all read that?
It's the same author with From Who Not How, correct? What's his name?
I haven't
Dan
read Who Not
Sullivan?
How. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so it really just, and this was, it had such a huge impact on my life. There's a lot of great books out there, but the Gap and the Gain really focuses, no matter what experiences you go through, positive or negative, there's something that you gain from that. There's something to be, learned from that experience. There's something positive to take from it. And when you're focusing on the negative and you're focusing on the bad things, you're living in the gap. And
Mhm.
um, just shifting your mindset and looking at things in a positive way, finding those learning experiences, finding those golden nuggets and everything that you're going through puts you in the gain. And it really, and it doesn't matter if, whether you're talking about losing weight or investing or whatever you're doing. So it just had such a profound impact on me. I listened to it over and over because it was such a great reminder, and I loved it so much. But there's a lot of great books out there.
Yeah. Yeah, Courtney, you shared a ton of wisdom today, but if there was just one piece of advice you'd want someone to walk away with from today's episode, what would that be?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I would just say, find those podcasts or those conferences that resonate with you, and go to them and meet people and surround yourself with people that are doing the things that you want to do, and then take action.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
I that has made all the difference in my life.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We learned a lot, and
Yeah.
I know my audience is going to get a ton of value.
It's
And
always great to talk to you, Courtney.
yes.
Really do appreciate your
And if
time.
anyone
Oh,
in our audience would like to reach out to you, learn more about you, or just follow you on your journey, how can they do that?
yeah. So I have a website. It's CourtneyMoeller.com, and my email is Courtney@CourtneyMoeller.com. So I always love, chatting with people and just giving them tips or advice or, anything. I have no problem sharing the areas where I've made mistakes and the places where I've had successes, because you learn the most from the mistakes that you make. So
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for your time. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in today to the Real Estate Monopoly. If you guys got any value, make sure you leave a comment down below or leave a 5-star review if you want. And yeah, Jeffrey, where can they go to find out more about us on social media?
Yeah, you can follow us at Donis Brothers on every social media platform.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Let's get out there and take action. Have a great
See you
rest of your
guys.
day.